The Toyota Highlander just got a big brother. It's a new kid on the block that's heating up the mid-size crossover segment. Today I'm talking about the all-new 2024 Grand Highlander. We'll see its highs and lows and how it stacks up against the regular Highlander, Sequoia, and other competing crossovers. I'll also talk about why Toyota went big and whether this will kick off a trend in the car industry. The regular Highlander right now sits a tad smaller than the Hyundai Palisade or Chevy Traverse. But when you look at the Grand Highlander, well, the name says it all. Right off the bat, the Grand Highlander is bigger than the regular Highlander. It's also boxier. I'm talking about 16 centimeters more in length, 5 centimeters more in width. In fact, the SUV is nearly the size of the Land Rover Discovery S. It's also taller than the 2023 Hyundai Palisade. Funny enough, apparently Toyota thought it should be even bigger. That said, the Grand Highlander is smaller than the Toyota Sequoia. With larger dimensions, you also get more cabin space. It's an 8-seater like the regular Highlander, but here's the difference. With the regular Highlander, there's been complaints that the third row is too tight for most adults. Actually, many crossovers face the same dilemma. I'm talking about crossovers with third rows that are so cramped, it's virtually useless for adults. You can only put kids in them. I call them sham rows or token rows. They exist just for bragging rights, but otherwise have little use or value. Anyway, with the Grand Highlander, it's a whole different story. The third row is now adult-sized. Personally, I predict that soon Toyota may nix the third row in the regular Highlander. I say this because just look at what happened with the 2023 Lexus RX. Toyota nixed the third row altogether. Now it's a two-row affair. Or consider the 2024 BMW X5, which gives hint that the third row may be a goner. Honestly, I doubt consumers will miss these cramped rows. If anything, if Toyota were to nix the third row in the regular Highlander, it would move buyers to ladder up to the Grand Highlander. Anyway, that's just my personal prediction. But let's see what happens. Another gripe that many consumers have with the regular Highlander is cargo space. It's nothing spectacular, only 16 cubic feet of space behind the third row, which is small for its class. But with the Grand Highlander, you get an additional 13.2 cubic feet. I'm talking enough space to put 7 carry-ons behind the third row. To put that in perspective, that's more cargo space than even the Chevy Traverse, which is currently one of the largest crossovers out there and can fit 6 carry-ons. So you can see the Grand Highlander beats the competition here. The Grand Highlander will be built on the same platform that you find on the regular Highlander today. I'm referring to the Toyota TNGA-K platform, which is the modular structure that underpins unibody vehicles in Toyota crossovers and SUVs. Basically, it's built to maximize passenger and cargo space and on-the-road comfort. It's different from the body-on-frame BAF platform that you find in the Toyota Sequoia, which prioritizes towing capability, for example. As far as powertrain, many midsize crossovers have 6 cylinders. You see the 3.6 V6 in Grand Cherokee L with 290 horsepower. You have the option for a 5.7-liter V8 for 357 horsepower. The latest 2023 Hyundai Palisade and Kia Telluride both have the 3.8 V6 engine that outputs 291 horsepower. And that's for the Palisade's 5 trim levels and the Telluride's 10 trims. The Grand Highlander, on the other hand, doesn't have a V6 option. It offers 3 other powertrain options. You have the same 2.4-liter 4-cylinder turbo engine that we see in the regular Highlander, as well as the same 2.5-liter hybrid variant. The hybrid gets you 34 miles a gallon for combined city and highway driving. But now, there'll also be the Hybrid Max option, which is all-wheel drive. We're talking 363 horsepower and 400 pound-feet of torque, and it can sprint from 0 to 60 in 6.3 seconds, making it one of the fastest crossovers out there. The Grand Highlander has a maximum towing capacity of up to 5,000 pounds. That's less than the Kia Telluride, which can handle 5,500. Of course, the Grand Cherokee L blows them out of the water because it can tow up to 7,200 pounds. As far as trim levels are concerned, the Grand Highlander is due to come in 3 levels, XLE, Limited, and Platinum, which comes with a 360-degree camera system. By the way, the Grand Highlander is supposed to be one of the most decked out and loaded Toyotas out there. I'm talking a huge panoramic roof, digital rearview mirror, and that's just the beginning. You notice it in the smaller things too. For example, you get 7 USB-C charge ports, which is 2 more USB ports than in the standard version. There's no official news yet about how much the Grand Highlander will be, but consider this. Right now, the average new car is around $50,000 in the United States. And car makers have been prioritizing higher-end models over entry-level ones because of ongoing supply chain problems. Also, consider the fact that the MSRP for the 2023 regular Highlander starts over $36,000. To give you a better idea, the average price the consumers paid for the current Highlander was a bit under $47,000 for the gas version and nearly $49,000 for the hybrid. The 2023 Sequoia has a base price of $58,000. So my guess is that the Grand Highlander will price somewhere near the 48 to low 50s. For now, what we do know is that the vehicle is due to be available this very summer. Anyway, the Grand Highlander will be built here in the States in Indiana. It's the same plant where Toyota builds the regular Highlander and also the Sienna minivan. Obviously, this means it will displace some of that production volume. I say Toyota's betting more on this Grand Highlander. The 3-row midsize crossover segment is really heating up. In 2018, there were 12 different nameplates. The year 2020 saw new incumbents, like the Hyundai Palisade and Kia Telluride. And this year, we have 16 nameplates, so the segment is expanding. Actually, for several years now. Mid-size crossovers have been drawing consumers from other segments. Take minivans, for example. They started to look outdated as crossovers became more hip. Here's the funny thing. In terms of comfort and interior space, everyone wants a minivan. The problem is, no one wants to admit it. Otherwise, they'll look uncool. I'll tell you, I know that coolness sells. Just look at how crossovers drew all those consumers who normally drove sedans. And when you see owners of crossovers who never use a third row, those are the folks who likely have owned sedans previously. Anyway, about 50% of the American car market's already switched from sedans and wagons to SUVs. Think about the owner of a Honda Civic who switched to a Honda CR-V. He just got 3 more inches in width. Or consider the owner of a CR-V who upgraded to a Honda Pilot. He got 5 inches more. Now you may think a few inches is nothing, but those few inches are now causing a new phenomenon. Our cars are getting too big for our parking spaces. Ever notice how parking spaces and parking garages can be rather tight? It turns out that the changes to parking space standards hasn't kept up with the fattening of American cars. So, you know how buildings are designed by an architect? Well, parking garages are designed by parking consultants. There's no uniform law that mandates all parking spaces. But there are standards, and they use formulas to calculate and design. Most parking spaces are between 8 feet 6 inches and up to 10 feet wide. But the most common size is 9 feet. But typically, parking spots outside office buildings oftentimes are half a foot narrower, or 8 feet 6 inches wide. Anyway, the parking space standards have changed very little over recent years, whereas vehicle designs have changed much more rapidly. On top of that, sales of said large vehicles have also soared. It's like a race. Let's give you an example. Let's say you own a parking garage with 700 parking stalls. If half the cars in the parking garage are now 4 inches wider than previous cars owned by the same drivers, that's a total of 233 extra feet in car width. That's the distance from the goal line to the opponent's 23-yard line of football field. Imagine needing to accommodate that extra space. It can get expensive. To build an open surface lot can cost about $7,500 for each parking stall. Parking garage that's above ground can cost $40,000 per stall, whereas an underground parking in a city can easily rack up to $200,000 per stall. At the end of the day, no one loves a tight parking spot. We always want a bigger parking space. Sadly, even a few inches makes a difference whether a parking garage or a lot makes profit or loss. That's why parking consultants look at every inch of their design to maximize every possible space. Anyway, the next time you're parked in a narrow stall, blame it on American cars getting bigger. Now, if you're wondering why American cars are getting bigger, here's the thing about America. We love big cars. Actually, large American cars are nothing new. Been that way pretty much since after World War II up to now. And it's not just about cars. It's a mentality and lifestyle. In America, we go big or we go home. And we go home to big houses. The reality is things seem normal for us are considered gigantic to people who live outside the U.S. Think about our houses. Costco, Super Walmart, huge shopping malls, supersized meals, and like it or not, we have some very large people here too. That's why it comes as no surprise that the best 3 selling vehicles in the States last year were all large trucks. I'm talking about the Ford F-Series, Chevy Silverado, and Ram trucks. Among the top best sellers are also SUVs and crossovers, and this trend continues. Here's the thing, our streets are wide, our highways have multiple lanes. I'm not just talking about 2 or 3 lanes here, just look at Texas. Well, everything's big in Texas, I know, because I used to live there. There's a Katy Freeway which spans not 3, not 4, not even 5 lanes or 6, but 26 lanes in parts. If the world's the widest highway, you might ask yourself, why on earth do we need a highway with 26 lanes? But there it is. Is it a bragging right or an embarrassment? You be the judge. It's like a cycle. Having large streets and highways facilitates and enables us to have large cars. Unless you live in New York City, most American city streets are comfortable and spacious. They're not as narrow as tight as European and Asian city streets. Also, the price of gasoline in the United States is relatively lower than in the rest of the world. So less Americans are concerned with fuel efficiency than Europeans and Asians, for example. That's why we're nonchalant about large gas guzzlers. There's also our American history. The U.S. was founded on the idea of freedom. Our ancestors were pioneers on a big, wild frontier. I'm talking about open land and space. This also influenced our culture of individualism. We don't like being told what to do. We like our freedom of choice. That's why we're less bothered by large gas-guzzling pickup trucks and SUVs, even though they release more carbon emissions. Contrast that with Europe, for example. They don't mind tighter government regulations to protect the environment. Anyway, cars in America are getting bigger, and as we've been told, a trend that continues. And with Toyota fattening up the regular Highlander to create the Grand Highlander, well, that just fits right in. But now you tell me, what do you think about the Grand Highlander? Do you think this will cause future midsize crossovers to get bigger? Please share by commenting below. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. Thanks for your support.